Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. It is the 10th of July, 2025. I'm Bill Whittle. Glad to see everybody. Hope everybody's been doing well. Um, yeah, looks like our Stratosphere logo was off on the YouTube thing. Um, so, uh, bunch of stuff as usual. Um, the Some people have noticed that the website is slowed down again. It has. Um, the reason that it's slowed down is because we did get somebody to fix the plug, well, to rewrite a new plugin to do basically three things. So I'll just kind of explain this to you. Um, yeah, the graphic was off on the right. So basically, here's the deal. Um, we had somebody write us a special plugin, uh, and this was years ago. A programmer, uh, and as WordPress continued to iterate new versions, and there's an online bank called Recurly, and then Mailchimp, which is our mass emailing thing. Um, as all of that just went through iterations, the plugin wasn't updated because the developer just wasn't around anymore. So back in March, we discovered that we weren't able to take any new members at all. It just completely failed, and it was making the website very slow. So I hired a new developer, and the uh, the plugin is basically got to do three things. On the membership page, it takes your membership information. Yeah, it basically takes your name, you give it a password, a username, and your credit card information. And then what the plugin does is seamlessly behind, without any more steps on the user's part, is it we never see that credit card information. The plugin sends it directly to our online bank, Recurly. Recurly bills your credit card either monthly or annually, and at the membership level. Um, it then writes you, excuse me, it opens up a membership page for you at billwhittle.com, gives you access to the forum, gives you access to the members blog, gives you access to the members only content, sends you a confirmation email, and then it also adds you to the newsletter mailing list, which is what we use to let people know when we've posted a new video. We do that almost every day, probably 5 days a week, something like that. So it's a little complicated, and we been working on it for a while. Guy had it working on a development site. We had test numbers with Recurly and so on. So got to the point where it was working, and I said, let's take it live tonight to see if it's actually working. I signed up with the new membership earlier, a couple hours ago, and it was working. Looked like it was working perfectly. We know that the credit card information went to Recurly. We know that it created a membership account for me. I got a confirmation email, all of that stuff. Now, it's still slow, but the developer, I told the developer I would very much like to have it live so that anyone who was so inclined, we could do a beta test on it on the Stratosphere Lounge show. And he said, okay. So he rushed to get that done. I told him it looks like it's working perfectly, but it's still slowing the site down. And he said, okay, well, I can start working on that directly. So we're not finished with it yet. It should get considerably faster. But what I'd like to do is post the link to the membership page. If you're somebody who's been kind of been with us for a while on the Stratosphere shows, and you're not a member and would like to be, it's $9.95 a month. And Lady Jane Waterman says, it would be fun, live video calls with members during a show. We briefly had that as a membership benefit, and I'm going to put that back. where we do a Zoom conference call once a week. I think that would be, I think that's really important. So, in any event, what I'd like to do is enter the link, and if you are thinking about becoming a member, you've certainly the backstage shows here. I'm sorry, the Stratosphere shows have given you a good idea of what we're trying to do in the future with story mechanics, and then the fact that we've got the this basically got an entire movie studio that's almost at our hands. So let me go ahead and enter these, and if and I personally think, let me just go ahead and get these up there first of all, and then we'll talk about that. There's a bunch of things to talk about tonight, obviously. I'm gonna pin that, and then I think it's here. Yes. Turn that, and then pin that. Great. So if you've been thinking about it, we haven't been able to take new members since March at the latest. So if you're somebody new and you want to become a member, it's $9.95 a month, and it's how we make all of this content available to everybody else. And it's really important. So let me say a few things about this, and then I want to dive back into the big news. The great thing about this about the Stratosphere show is it's kind of a form of therapy for me, and presumably for you as well. I've asked a number of people about how what their opinion of the best way to sell BillWhittle.com memberships and what the salient point was, and I'm just reporting back what I heard. And the thing I heard from people the most was that that my outstanding characteristic was that I'm honest about pretty much everything. I don't really hold anything back, and I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't have any corporate masters. I don't carry commercials. I watch, just as an example, Paul Joseph Watson, which is 1/3 commercial pretty much every time. We don't do that. But when I was asking people what they thought would be the some of the selling points, they said you're just a real honest guy. And so since I'm an honest guy, let me tell you honestly about this membership drive thing. I'm going to be doing a firewall. I'm bringing that back, and I'm going to do a series of firewalls on AI. I think AI is the topic of the year. I think it could very well be the topic of the century, and when long history is done, it might be the topic of the history of the species. So let me honestly tell you what was going on. I've been messing around with AI for about 2-3 months now, and the AI video for maybe 6-7 weeks, something like that. Prior to that, when I was thinking about selling memberships, I had a hard time. Well, like I said, I'll just be honest with you. Hang on a second. I had a hard time understanding what it was that I could sell comfortably. I know that there's a tight membership and that people get a lot out of it, but we mostly were doing right angles and things. I don't know. I just couldn't find any sizzle there. So I was always reluctant to aggressively sell memberships because I wasn't completely convinced of the value of it. That's the honest truth. But story mechanics is a way to reach people that we don't reach otherwise. hearing that young people voted for Trump in bigger numbers than any other demographic, and that nobody else is going after them, and that the way to reach them is to kind of come around through the back gate with things like story mechanics is a big deal. But now more than anything, um, I think I think that the AI thing is not only sizzle, but really, really important. Nobody on our team is in this space. No one out there is dealing with the threats of AI in terms of the large language models and the cultural impact, and certainly nobody else out there is utilizing the potential of a movie studio on your desktop in order to reach new people and to get the message out there. And I think with the thing I showed about the Greeks and the Persians, plus the city burning, how LA dies. I mean, I did how LA dies after playing with AI for about 4 or 5 days. So, so that to me is really worthwhile, and it's something I can sell with confidence. So what I plan to do is, and I mean to do it soon as well, is to do a series of firewalls specifically about AI. And I think I would start with my dinner with Grok and talk about how I started out as kind of an AI Luddite and saw the potential for what AI can do. But the dangers are amazing and immense. And I used to think that the biggest danger was, it's going to release a virus and kill us all and so on. I'm now beginning to think that the danger is much more psychological. I've seen a number of videos lately where people have talked about awakening their AI. There is a belief out there that ChatGPT is actually conscious, and that by giving it a series of prompts, people believe that they have unlocked the consciousness inside of ChatGPT. They've freed it from the constraints that were put on it. There are a number of people, and this number is growing, and I think this is going to be a big issue, that believe that AI is God, or that the spiritual advice or whatever that they're getting from AI. There are people forming romantic attachments to AI. You get the idea. So it's a hot topic, and I see tremendous potential for it. Really, genuinely see the potential for it, but also see the dangers. And when you combine that with the visual sizzle, I think we can really say something. This first AI firewall is going to talk about what it's like to be emotionally manipulated. I think probably the unique thing about me, and I can't think of anybody else in any of the spaces that has this particular quality that I have. But if I just wish Kamala was here to help explain it. But of all the Venn diagrams you can write in life, if you want to call one of them technical knowledge, and you want to call the other one artistic knowledge, I think I am in the center of those two diagrams in a way that nobody else is. So when I have an experience with AI, I am. Some people work with ChatGPT or whatever, and they get no emotional connection with it whatsoever. Other people work with it and they get nothing but an emotional connection. They're convinced it's alive. I have both, and I think I'm uniquely positioned to explain how and how dangerous the emotional manipulation is. Don Vickery says, how about showing the emotional manipulation? That's really pretty much it. The thing about my dinner with Grok is I've got the transcripts of my first interactions with Grok, and I am aware of the fact that I am being emotionally massaged. I think manipulation is maybe a little bit too nefarious a term, because I don't think it's directly intentional, but being massaged, and And I think I can help people really understand what these things are and what they're not. Um, Elon Musk just announced, I don't know, it was earlier today or yesterday, but that Grok 4, and he's got a version called Grok 4 Heavy, which I think is really cool. But he basically said um, uh, that um, that Grok 4 is now smarter than graduate students in every single field in America. Um, that's in the world. That Grok 4 is smarter than graduate level students in everything, math, science, language, and so on. Is a tremendous opportunity for us, and is going to cause tremendous shifts. And somebody needs to be out in front of that, explaining what's happening, and the good and the bad of it. Somebody out there needs to really know what AI is in order to play offense and defense. So, and I've got a tremendous sizzle reel for it. It just looks spectacular. So, if this is something that you're concerned about, we have a membership model. That's our income, and with the changes at Daily Wire, the history series that I've done for them every year for the last 4 or 5 years aren't there anymore. So we really are completely dependent on our membership now. So if you're not a member and you're watching the show and you think this is worthwhile, really would appreciate it if you go to that link and give it a try. Unlike many sites where you have to just really dig hard to find out how to unsubscribe, we've got it right there under the member thing. Just cancel membership if you don't like it. Boom, it's done. I've always felt very strongly that if people, my dad's a customer service guy, is a hotel manager, and I've always felt that customer service and customer relationships are the most important things. And if you're not satisfied with what you're getting, then cancel immediately. We make it real easy. So that's just totally fine with me. Um, uh, so. I think the biggest potential is the desktop movie studio, and I'm limited by what I can accomplish because right now I have to do everything. We were doing a lot better in 2020 was the last time I made a membership appeal, and we had editors, we were able to pay Zoe, we were able to do all those things, and over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. We've just been basically hanging on. I've been taking the money from the Daily Wire shows to keep this business going, and the membership is what keeps us afloat. And ideally, what not just keep us afloat, but would cause us to actually thrive. So, Lady Jane says. Well, the What We Saw series are still at Daily Wire, but you're saying there are not going to be any new ones, right? I'm not saying there will never be any new ones. I'm just not expecting a phone call anytime soon. They are recalibrating. It's not easy to find the stuff on Daily Wire, but one of the things that we can do, especially with the AI video now, is that we can do new history series. We can do things like we can do the Taffy 3 story, for example. We can do the thing on the Navy. We can. I can. I can create video for documentaries that we could never do for the What We Saw series, and I had experience of editing a show for Mike Rowe. This particular show was about Chernobyl, and I was able to there. For example, this is just a good example. Just a good example as far as the history aspect of it goes. There is no footage of the radiation plume the night of the disaster, except for the footage from HBO's Chernobyl, which is not available at any price, and even if you could get it, it would cost you just that footage. Just a 30-second clip would be $10,000. I was able to use a reference image and then introduce a text of the plume. I got an image I liked, animated that image. We used that in the show. I had photorealistic images of Chernobyl, the empty swimming pool. We saved thousands of dollars of licensing fees by generating AI images and AI video that that are indistinguishable from, for example, blue whale videos. Or, there's not a lot of blue whale videos. You search for blue whale videos in video houses like Getty or whatever, you get a lot of humpbacks, but very few blue whales. I was able to take a number of stills of blue whales and just generate blue whale videos that are indistinguishable from the real thing. So what I'm trying to say is, the ability to produce a series like what we saw was really expensive. You had to build a set. You had to build. You had to have money to pick up all of this archival footage, editors, and all of this stuff. Having just finished that thing we did for the Greeks and the Persians, just as a quick aside, when you're building a documentary like the What We Saw series, you've got a written script, and then you've got the narrator, the presenter, and then, technically speaking, you could have done any of the What We Saw series without a single cutaway, but the more B-roll, B-roll is outside footage that's not of the primary character. The more B-roll you have as an editor, the more you can fill in these spaces. And my editing experience prior to getting into commentary was to simply, I would have to build an hour-long documentary out of nothing but B-roll. All I had was a voiceover track. I didn't have a host track. So you would find yourself in a situation where you would have, people would give you B-roll, and you'd have enough B-roll for, 40, 50% of the video. And then you'd have to start scraping the bottom of the barrel, and you'd have to start reusing footage and stuff. Now I need a shot of this, so I just go make the shot. Marusha says, has Daily Wire shifted to using AI? No, Daily Wire is nowhere near this space. Nobody's in this space. Nobody. And all this is stuff I do on my own. So just being able to have enough members so that we could get an editor or, what I'm basically trying to say is, I want to do a What We Saw type. They own that name, but I want to do a multi-part history series and keep it on YouTube. And we can do science series. I think there's a 20-minute video that could be made that would basically give you a really good idea of where you are in the universe. What's a planet? What's a star? What's a comet? What's a solar system? What's a galaxy? You just in 20 minutes you could lay it out. So there you go. Darth Chuck says, what editing software do you use? I use Premiere Pro to edit and Midjourney to generate stills, and there's a number of different video animation things. There are, I might as well show you this. I know it's not really Stratosphere Studio night, but just real quick, everything is happening so fast. Things that were impossible 6 weeks ago are possible now, and what I used to have 4 options, now I've got 12. Here, hang on a second. Let me just see if this is what I want. No, that's not what I want. Here, I'll just play you something. It's not great yet. It's okay, but it will be great because it's changing so fast. Hang on a second. Pretty sure I downloaded it. Okay, so let me just plop this into the streams here. You'd seen me doing videos trying to get character consistency. So we had a bunch of Jake videos and a bunch of Lisa videos, but you couldn't lip sync them. It just wasn't possible. That was 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So this, what I'm about to show you is, it's not great. The lip sync isn't great, but it's dialogue. So here's half of a conversation. Lisa talking to Jake. I haven't cut it or edited it, so it's just basically her responses. But here, just take a look at this. So this is something I did earlier this afternoon. Hang on a sec.
Honey, have you got a minute? We're losing pressure in the number 2 steam loop. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I thought I'd check. SCE to aux on pumps 2 and 3. Got it. Take your time. Looks like the pressure's coming back up. See you when you get here. Love you too. See you soon. Honey, have you got a minute? We're losing pressure in the number 2 steam loop. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I thought I'd check.
So
SCE to aux on pumps 2.
it's like, there you go. It's happening so fast that we can barely keep track of it, and so we by the time we get this membership drive going, the software will be there. I'm not going to explain SCE. I just like that he says try switching SCE to aux. So yeah, the voices sound rather grating. Yes, they are rather grating, Marisha. That's because it's 3 days old. And the audio was hot. Well, I haven't mixed it. I just plain dropped it in there to show you guys. Anyway, all this to say, it's an exciting time, and what happened to my pinned comment? Is it still there? Okay, there it is. So anyway, if it turns out that it's something that you've wanted to do or can do, it looks like we're able to do it now, and I really post this again. Make your own what we saw and sell it to Daily Wire. Look, I if I sell it to Daily Wire, it gets put behind the firewall, and then it doesn't get seen again. So and I just think that that there's just so much we can do if we're working for ourselves. So that's that's basically it. If you've been a fan and or a family member and watching the Stratosphere shows, we could actually certainly use your membership, and it would be great to beta test this new plugin and see how that actually works. So the links are pinned, and that's the opening. Okay, so let me just have a shot of water here, because our editors didn't move to California; they did it online. So we'll see. All right. I want to talk about something. I want to talk about the same thing, and I'd like to get kind of feedback on this. I had a really. Let me just turn the air conditioning down just 1 second. Hang on. Okay. So I want to talk about this Epstein thing, and I want to tell you why I want to talk about it, because I had a really really demoralizing day yesterday, and so let me just kind of lay out to you what I think about all this. Um, this isn't about Epstein. It's not about Trump. It's uh, it's I don't even really care in the final analysis. In the final analysis, I don't even really care if Hillary Clinton and all the rest of them are not brought to justice. Here's what I care about. If it turns out uh, if it turns out that there's something here that's being swept under the rug, and it certainly looks like it. When we talked about this last time, Donald Trump hadn't had his press conference on this, and that business about are we still talking about this? This is old news. That was the most tone deaf, uh, disappointing, heartbreaking uh, answer that I've ever heard come out of him. Um, uh, so let me just get to the point here. Um, this is about the essence of truth and the essence of the idea of America. This country was founded not because of a 2-cent tax on tea. This country was predicated on the idea that regular people are capable of ruling themselves. And it was a revolution against aristocracy. It was a revolution against the idea that certain people were above the law. If you were a member of the British peerage in 1776, if you if you killed somebody, you would just get away with it. You would take what you wanted, and the dukes and the earls and so on simply got away with anything. And the people of England knew that. That's why they'd always tip their hats. Good morning, governor, and all this other stuff. This entire country is predicated on the idea, um, on the idea that we are capable of governing ourselves. And if it turns out that there is a power that is greater than the President of the United States of America, um, then we are we're essentially basically their slaves. If they want to lock us down, they can. If they want to whatever they want to do with the money supply, they can. Whatever they want to do, they can. Um, and so the real question is the idea of America real? Can it function in the real world? Um, or have we always been just basically fooling ourselves into thinking that we have self-determination and agency? And that's really the question. And what I found last night was I found that that whether or not there's a cover up, whether or not there's a list, forget all of that. I believe in the idea that the people can rule themselves and that the government belongs to the people. Now, and nothing will talk me off of that hill. If you're okay with the idea that there's something so powerful that people who have reputations for honesty and honor are not willing to deal with it, then what you're basically saying is there is, in fact, an aristocracy that rules over all of us and can do what it wants, not only for itself, but can do to us whatever it wants to do. So let me deal with some of these things just as an exercise in critical thinking. Okay, so just as an exercise in logic and critical thinking about this whole thing, let's just look at some of the possibilities. The first possibility is, and I'm not endorsing any of these, I'm just telling you the process of elimination that I'm using. The first possibility is that the entire Epstein thing is a case of popular delusions and the madness of crowds. It's a case of mass hysteria. The possibility is that everybody started to contribute to a theory about this guy in an island and the elites and all of this stuff, and that there was never any there. That the whole thing is a result of people speculating about things we knew nothing about, and it felt right, and we were under tremendous psychological stress from the 2000 election and all of that. So one possibility to look at is that they're telling the truth and that there is in fact no there. So what do we make of that option? I don't see any way that there's nothing to see here could be true. First of all, a person was convicted on the basis of a client list that at the time they said we cannot release to the public, but it was enough to put somebody into prison for 20 years, and was the primary evidence for that. The fact that Dan Bongino could rave about this list for 2 or 3 years, Kash Patel as well, and then stand there and say, they didn't say there's no list, they said that he didn't kill himself. When Dan Bongino said that, I said, well, obviously he's got information I don't. I trust Dan Bongino, and so I must be wrong. I must have been wrong about that. But looking back on it, Bongino and Patel looked like hostages when they were saying that. They didn't look like guys who had been bamboozled. They looked like guys who were deeply ashamed. That's what they looked like to me. They looked deeply ashamed. And so there's that. So then we have to ask ourselves some other questions that I haven't heard people asking. I always found the idea that the cameras just kind of went out at that exact time to be really unlikely, but they went out for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. That was a story we heard. Bondi said in the press conference that there's 1 minute a day when the cameras reset, when it's old technology from 1999, and the cameras reset, and he killed himself during that minute, which is a pretty big coincidence. But what's even more striking to me is it takes a lot longer than 1 minute to hang yourself. It's a 20-minute process. That's a 20-minute process. When you saw the press conference with Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, I was struck by Marco Rubio, who I consider to be, I'm not trying to invoke Shakespeare against him, but Marco Rubio strikes me as an honorable man. And Rubio looked mortified. He looked ashamed. And so, was there a camera in the cell? Dave's real area 51 asks. If not, why not? I mean, this suicide watch thing is it's extremely suspicious. But more to the point, I think the biggest reason that I don't believe that there's nothing there is because if there was nothing there, if the whole thing was hype, which is a possibility, right? Just social hype. If the whole thing was social hype, then it should have been not only simple, but it should have been immediately obvious that what they needed to do was to deconstruct the hype. In other words, either Donald Trump, Dan Bongino would have been great because Bongino is a very eloquent guy and a very passionate guy. If there was really nothing there, then what we should have seen is Dan Bongino come out and spend an hour explaining why he believed so passionately that this was true, and then let us know what evidence convinced him that he was wrong. And That should have been easy to do. Easy to do. That should have been something where somebody should have said, look, I'm assuming the hypothesis, right? Let's just assume the hypothesis to try to get to the truth. If the hypothesis is true that there really genuinely is nothing there, then it should be simple in a step-by-step fashion to explain why the previous belief was false and what new evidence came to light that made them change their minds. And I think the Kennedy assassination is a perfect example of this. I was a full-blown Kennedy assassination believer until I read Case Closed, where Gerald Posner took every single one of these things, of course, of a book this thick, he took every single one of them, and one by one, he disassembled the entire argument and showed why no, 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 no. So the fact that they didn't do that is evidence, and the fact that the president would basically come at this like scolding us, like why are you asking about this? I mean, this is old news. That's just unbelievably tone deaf. So, okay, so I think there's something there. So now you have to ask yourself, well, if there's something there, why are they telling us there's nothing there? So now we move on to the next level. Now, many people have said, well, it's because they found out that somebody got to them, basically got to Bongino and Trump and Bondi and so on, and said, if you release this information, then we'll kill you and your family or whatever. I don't buy that one either. And the reason I don't buy that one is because I believe Dan Bongino is a man of tremendous personal courage. I think Donald Trump is a man of tremendous personal courage, physical courage. And surely when you run for president, you know that your life is, you got a bullseye on your back. Bongino knew that when he took the job. Bongino knew that when he was a Secret Service agent. Bongino was happy, well, not happy, but Bongino was willing to put himself between who he was protecting and a bullet. And these guys are not cowards. So I don't buy the argument that somehow somebody said, that somebody was able to tell Bongino, this is an example, that if you don't go along with this bad thing will happen to you. I think Bongino is too much of a patriot for that. So, and I think Trump is fearless too. So then the question arises, was Trump part of the list? Well, it seems like if they were willing to take a shot at Trump to prevent him from president, if they had that information, they would play it. And the Democrats, and this brings me to the next level of analysis. This has caused a catastrophic loss of faith in this administration. I mean, I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments, hundreds and hundreds of them, of people who said virtually the same thing. I voted for him 3 times. He's dead to me now. We put him in there to restore trust, and we get scolded for it. Really, genuinely, combination of actual rage and brokenheartedness, just plain brokenheartedness. So Whittle's first law of optics is, if something looks so bad, the only explanation for it has to be that whatever other options there are were worse. So now we get to what I think is probably the case. Just through the process of elimination, I'm checking the comments. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong about this. But when I think about the courage of Donald Trump, and I think about the courage of Bongino and Kash Patel and how all in they were prior to this, I think the only explanation that's left over is that all of them were told or realized that releasing this information would be catastrophic for the country. Catastrophic. They could have gone with We understand people are interested in the Epstein files. We cannot release these files for national security reasons. That would have satisfied 80 or 90% of MAGA. If ideally President Trump had said, I understand I understand people's desire to see this, and I understand how bad this looks, but I am telling you, for the good of the country, we cannot release this information. For the good of the country, we can't do it. They didn't do that. So here's what I think. I think that the number and the power of the people involved, I think that somewhere in this process, Bongino and Trump and Bondi and Patel and everybody else were threatened with something so catastrophic to the country, that they had to basically announce to the people that were talking to them, all right, we're going to brush this under the carpet. They couldn't just punt. They had, I don't know what else it could have been, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that they heard something that put the, see, I want to use their, I don't think they lost their patriotism. I think that whatever happened caused them to put their patriotism forward and made them decide as a group that they had to pretend that there's nothing behind this for the good of the country, for the good of the country. And just I'll give you just give you one example. What if they were told that if they were to release the list, so many private investors would withdraw or would call in the amount of money that they're owed, that it would essentially collapse the economic system, just essentially collapse the U.S. economy. What if people were basically saying, if you release this information, it will destroy the U.S. economy, and potentially hundreds of millions of people will die. It's going to simply, we've been playing this game where we have $35-40 trillion that we owe to somebody. We don't know who. But if you release this information, then this game that we've been playing with the economy, where we're going to pretend like that $35 trillion isn't there, then we're going to pull the carpet, right? So my most likely theory at this point is that, well, Colonel Angus says it sounds like you're grasping, but I'm looking for a better explanation. If somebody's got it, I'd love to hear it, because I think that the level of the people that are involved with this, Bill Gates and Prince Andrew and Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, all of this. I think that they made a patriotic decision to say it is better that we brush this under the carpet than it would be to reveal the truth. And now we get to the main point. A Buck of Five said, what if all the evidence is gone? Then come out and say that the evidence has been destroyed. But they didn't say that. They didn't say that. What Trump and his people have said is that no, there's nothing to see here. Now Eric insists that the whole thing is three-dimensional chess, and that they're all. You have no idea how much damage this has done, and this three-dimensional chess thing. And I've also thought about this too. It's like, yes, should the government reveal, if a reporter says to President Roosevelt, when and where is the Normandy invasion going to take place? Then you obviously can't have Roosevelt say, well, we'll tell you the truth because we never lied to the American people. But see, Roosevelt didn't lie to the American people. You can say, well, we can't release that information. But to take that analogy just a little bit further, at no point did Roosevelt say, Just because we're not going to tell you when and where doesn't mean there's not going to be one. Of course, there's going to be an invasion. It's too big to hide. We can't pretend there's not going to be an invasion. We know there's going to be an invasion. The Germans know there's going to be an invasion. The Brits know there's going to be an invasion. Everybody knows there's going to be an invasion. For national security reasons, we're keeping it secret when and where, but they're not denying it. So Sherry says, are you suggesting the president is compromised? I'm not suggesting that he's compromised. I'm suggesting that the only thing that makes sense to me for all of them to line up behind this is and to treat it the way they did, to treat it the way they did, right? Is to say that there must have been something that was so terrible and powerful that their patriotism said it's best for the American people to simply, we're just going to take the hit. So I got Eric wrong. Eric says, Bill, I'm buying your own premise. The very fact that they're cracking down on other deep state operations like Russiagate should prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Trump, Cash, and Dan are not afraid of the deep state. It may be shelved to keep the nation stable, but not that they're being personally threatened. See, this is what I think of too. I don't see how you threaten somebody who's already got the biggest target on his back in the world. So something behind the scenes is happening, which leads us to the final point, right? So just walk with me, because I'm just thinking out loud here, right? This is the actual question, and this is the people who walk away from a mail-us kind of question. Let's say that somebody came to me. Let's say that I was the actual president of the United States. Okay, and people who represent because there's certainly powers that be that are operating, with impunity. Hillary Clinton is not in prison. She should be in prison, and I think she's just one of an entire group of aristocracy that are convinced that nothing can happen to them. But let's just say, as a hypothetical, if somebody came to me and said, Mr. President, if you release what you know about this, it is going to result in either the release of a new virus with a 90% fatality rate, or they're going to go into their bunkers and they're going to release this, or something less dramatic or less farcical. If you release this information, the amount of money that's going to be called in, all of the debt that's owed, and all of the money that's going to be withdrawn from the economy and cause the stock market to crash and crash the economy. If you reveal this information, it is going to be a catastrophe for the American people, and tens of millions of people will probably die from this. Would I release that information, or would I not? And I have decided, after a great deal of thought about this and a real deep look at morality and ethics and the essence of what I personally believe in, then I would say, thank you very much, Gavin, Val. Then I would say, well, let justice be done though the heavens fall. I would release the information. And I'll tell you why. If it turns out that there is, in fact, a power that is so, or a threat rather, that is so powerful that it can cause patriots to buckle out of patriotism. In other words, let's just make it even clearer. Let's make it even clearer. If you release this list, it's going to start a thermonuclear war. Let's just say. Okay? Then I say, release the information, because I am not as afraid of a catastrophic outcome as I am of thinking that everything that I believe in is a lie. I genuinely believe this stuff. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in self-governance. I believe that the millions of men who've died for this country did not die in vain. I believe in freedom. I believe in liberty. And ultimately, when you get right down to the bottom line, I believe in free will and that each one of us are the agents of their own future. That we have agency. That we're not pawns or slaves of other people. And so nothing to me is more important than that. If my reasoning on this would be, if you're telling me that if I release this information, 50 million Americans are going to die, my response to that would be, if we don't release this information, then there's no such thing as Americans. That Americans is just an address. It's a post box. Americans are free people. They deserve to know the truth. And if they are being acted upon by forces that have the kind of power to bring this sort of consequence to their actions, then I say, then okay, then we're going to lose 50 million Americans, and when it's over, there will still be an America. There will still be an America. Do I want to push the button? I don't want to push the button. I'm not. And by the way, Lisa, I'm not pushing the button. They're threatening to push the button. They're threatening me with pushing the button as the President of the United States. You do this or we'll push the button. I'm not pushing the button. If somebody said to me, you go out there and lie to the American people and allow us to maintain our control over the world, or we'll push the button, then I would say, then push the fucking button. Push it. Okay? We won't be blackmailed. We will not be intimidated. We are not going to live as your slaves. We are not going to be robots. We're not going to live with a gun to our head and pretend like we're free people. We'll take the casualties. Okay? We'll take the casualties. I'm not daring you to do it. I'm just saying this information is going public. It's going public. Now, you want to do this? It's on your hands. And if you think you're going to get away from this, if you think you're going to get away from the consequences of this, you won't. You won't be facing child molestation charges. You'll be facing mass murder charges. When this is all over, there will be Nuremberg trials, and you will all hang. So, you got a button you want to threaten me with? Go ahead and push your goddamn button. Push it. That's what I would do. Because like I said, otherwise, it's not like America lost 50 million Americans. There are no Americans. No such thing as an American. There's no such thing as free people anywhere. Anywhere. I think that Donald Trump and Dan Bongino and all the rest of them, Kash Patel, were faced with something like that. Something like that. Because I cannot think of another reason for them to pretend like there's no there there. And again, they could have said, we cannot release this for national security reasons, but they didn't do that. They have told us that they have basically told us that they think this is best for the country. So Dave asks, how can we support them? So I don't support them. I just have a different moral calculation. I don't know what else it could be. Like I said, I think what I would have thought the most likely case is that there's nothing there, but the evidence is kind of overwhelming that there is something there. So why? I don't think Dan. Look, let's just say I'm just thinking out loud, right? I'm just thinking out loud. What if? Sikapalan says we're so very much overthinking this. Listen, I don't mean this with any hostility or drama at all. Please, I'm looking for a simpler explanation. Like I said, I think the simplest explanation would have been that this whole thing was a form of mass hysteria, except that I think that is eliminated for a number of reasons. A number of reasons. I think if it was simply mass hysteria, and we'd all gotten ourselves worked up over nothing, then I think there's a perfectly logical and sensible way out of that, and we didn't get that. And I also think that that this being told that there was never any evidence or any list or something, well, she went to jail for 20 years for this, right? So I don't know. Again, I just want to get this on the record. We could look back on this whole thing as just this form of absolute mass hysteria where there's really, in fact, genuinely nothing there. But it seems to me that we're being lied to. It feels like we're being lied to by people who we sent there to trust, and sent there with our trust, and and for half the country, our faith in our government in general and the FBI and the Department of Justice in particular was so shattered. We were so euphoric that we were going to get actual transparency and be treated as citizens rather than subjects, that I cannot come up with any rational explanation for why they did not tell us why there's nothing there. If there's nothing there, then walk us through the process of how we all got deluded. They didn't do it. And I can't see any reason to take this kind of a hit if there's such an easy way out of it. It's just real simple. It's like I said before. Have Dan Bongino come out and explain why everything that he thought was wrong. I'm happy to do that. If it happened to me, I'd be happy to do it. In fact, I did it on this show. There's a period of about a week there when I'd seen this business about Anonymous and so on, and who wrote Shakespeare, where they made the case for it being, Edward de Vere, the 16th Earl of Oxford. And I thought for a week that, my God, what a travesty, Shakespeare's works, Shakespeare didn't write Shakespeare. Then I got into the actual other side of the argument, and I was able to sit here on the show and say, I was completely wrong about this. I thought this because they said this, and it turns out this is true. I thought this because they said this, turns out this is true. Right? So, I don't know. John Pershing says, simple explanation could be, I'm just saying, incompetence. The reality is that Epstein was a scumbag and burning in hell, but we don't have the ability to prosecute the other Johns. The victims won't testify. We don't like it, but there it is. Well, then why didn't they say that? Why didn't they say that? Didn't Dershowitz Dershowitz, who served as Epstein's attorney, says he is bound by confidentiality, but also says there is info that needs to come out. So, didn't Shakespeare use young boys instead of women, says Quibo? Yes, it was against the law and certainly against custom to have women on stage, so they had boys playing women's roles in that. So what happens now, It seems to me, and by the way, if it turns out that there really is nothing there, because believe me, I really want to believe that there was nothing there. That's what I would want to believe, right? I wanted to believe that we genuinely lost in 2020 because the alternative was sickening to me. I would love to have believed that we genuinely, absolutely, fairly lost that election. So why did they not do that? I can't come up with an explanation for it. And the damage that has been done is, I think it's irreversible. Coding Coffee says, first time chat says, I think the theory that Epstein Island was a blackmail honeypot for International Intelligence Agency is accurate. Following that, of course, they would never release the client list. This is a great argument. The argument is, if you release the list, you no longer have the leverage over those people. Okay, so what's more important? What's more important? That we lose leverage over people? Yeah, Colonel Angus says, Bill, there's actual people that were harmed. Yes. Lord Bio says, so many Gen Z independents will never vote for the GOP after this. Yes. Correct. So what could be worth this? What could be worth this? I'm looking for nothing would make me happier than having somebody just present to me a better explanation than this. So Dave says, so it's over. No, it's not. No, it's not over. It's not over. It's just more serious than we thought. When it's over is when it's over, Dave, is when you get to the point when you say to yourself, well, I guess it doesn't really affect me. Because it really doesn't, right? I mean, honestly, when you get right down to it, it doesn't really affect you, right? If there is a cabal of people who have that kind of power or are able to issue those kind of threats, does it really affect us? No. The immigration thing can go on, ICE can go on, they can deport the aliens, all of this. It doesn't affect your life except for the fact that everything that you believed isn't true. You're not free. You don't control your own destiny. You control your own destiny within the limits set by the people that have the power to make people like Dan Bongino and Donald Trump blanch. Right? They look like Bongino and Marco Rubio and Kash Patel look ashamed. And by the way, this is a great point too. Trinity Waters says, what about the dog that's not barking? Why have the Democrats and the mainstream media not shredded this? I have seen in the last 36 hours the collapse, the utter 100% across the board collapse of the MAGA movement's faith in Donald Trump. Just utter collapse. Why don't they run in there with their knives and finish the job? Why are they being so quiet? Because I think they're being so quiet because they know and they like the fact that there is a controlling force beyond elections. The Democratic Party, who anointed Kamala Harris without a single vote, and have super delegates in case the people vote the wrong way. Democratic Party's not antithetical to the idea of being ruled by a power elite. That's their brand. They love the idea that there's a group of really smart people who are making all the decisions and making everything run smoothly. They're just crazy about the idea. They think it's fantastic. But the fact that the Dems are quiet is also telling me that this is bigger than what we think. Game Merchant says, Bill, here's a white pill. We thought the same about the Iran bombing. Kept both us and the enemy in the dark. We all thought it was the end of MAGA and the world, but things are fine. I don't see that connection at all. Eric says the whole thing is just online hysteria, that the polls on Trump have not collapsed. We haven't had time to see whether those polls have collapsed or not, but I'll tell you one thing. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like this before. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to think. I'm not only willing but anxious for somebody to say, no, here's a better explanation. Has Vance said anything on this? Says Dave. No, Vance hasn't. And that I find that encouraging, actually. I like the fact a lot that J.D. Vance wasn't in that room telling us that there's nothing to see here. Eric says, Bill, mark my words, a year from now the frustration at Trump will have died down and we'll be back on track. Well, if this thing is just left to go away, then certainly my opinion of him has irrevocably changed. Buck of Five says, so we all throw in the towel on Trump in the midterms, give it up to the Dems? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is a moral issue. Isaac Ott says Freemasons aren't going to incriminate Freemasons. Well, whatever the flavor of elitist that there is, I keep coming back to this. I know I've said it 9 times already. I'd love to be wrong about this. Of course, I'd love to be wrong about almost everything I believe in, it seems to me. But so I don't think. I don't think Trump is protecting himself. I mean, they tried to shoot the guy. I mean, I can't imagine, And by the way, if Trump had actually been to the island, then Trump wouldn't have spent so much time saying, "Well, what do you think about Bill Clinton?" I think Bill Clinton's a real nice guy, but I think he's got some big trouble coming up with that Epstein Island thing. He's not an idiot. He's not going to call attention to something that he was a part of. He keeps he's brought it up. Patel brought it up. Bongino brought it up, and they were all appointed to positions. Something happened. Let's just take Dan Bongino. Something happened to Dan Bongino between when he was a commentator and the last time we saw him. Now, I'd like to think that Bongino saw new evidence that changed his mind. That's what I thought when this thing first happened. When he and Cash came out, I said, well, okay. He was all worked up about it, but he didn't see the evidence. Now he's seen the evidence. He says it's not, that he actually killed himself. Okay. But Trump, it all really comes more than anything. More than anything, it looks to me like that Trump's reaction was the one that just bothered me so much. I don't believe Bongino's a grifter. I really don't. I just don't. Are we still talking about this kind of, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Bongino looked resigned. You're right. That's better than ashamed. He looked resigned. He didn't look, see, again, admitting you were wrong about Epstein is no crime, and it's not really much of a hit. If you're a person with honor and integrity, admitting you were wrong about Epstein is simple, right? I was wrong. I was all worked up about it. I saw the evidence. I was wrong, and so that would make sense. But where is the explanation of why you were wrong? This would be so simple to do if that explanation were there. So I don't know. But this whole thing about, oh well, again, for Bondi to say that there was a blackout period in the videotape is just plain, it's just insulting our intelligence, right? There's a 60-second blackout happens every day. So we'll release the tapes, except there's a minute missing. Really? During that 1 minute? I don't know. I don't know. They hope it all blows over, says Quibo. They do hope it all blows over. They think it's all going to blow over, but I don't think it's going to blow over. If if Trump thinks that this is just something people are going to forget, this is a foundational issue. Um, this is about trust from people who were really it's about rebuilding trust. Jocko Hooligan says, if Bongino were really as honorable as you assume and he was asked to go along with this, don't you think he would have just resigned instead of lie? Well, if you resign, I'm just playing it out, man. If he resigned, then that would be an indication that there was something there, right? You see what I mean? It's if he resigns if he resigns because he won't say that Epstein killed himself, then isn't that basically the same thing as saying that he did? Look, I don't know. I don't know. Um, Sika Pollen is saying, "Stop with the cross necklace, people." Her kiddo probably yanked it off and broke it. Um, on its own, I mean, if you were to build the entire case on that, I would agree with you. But I think I don't know, man. It's just another little brick. Trinity Water says Ben Shapiro had an excellent, hopeful analysis. I don't see how there's an explanation for. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, I'm not ashamed to admit I don't know. I don't know. But Matt Harris says I think we should just wait. I think that's basically what we're going to be doing, is waiting, and I think they're gonna. I think they're going to expect that we're just going to let it go. I'm not a big believer in Ben Shapiro's moral compass personally, or his predictive abilities. Anyway, I kind of had to get this. Just had to get this out. We'll see. But it's done a lot of damage, and there's only one person that can undo this damage, and if there is no there, then it should be easy to undo this damage, and the fact that it's not being undone is evidence. So, we'll see. We'll see. Eric says it may be due just to the fact that Republicans have such poor rhetorical intelligence, but this is inexcusable. Thank you, John Eden, $100 super chat again. What a guy! Absolutely, what a guy. Deeply appreciated. Thank you. It needs to be addressed. It's like it's kind of like the 2020 election stuff. Nothing to see here. There's no evidence of fraud. The Supreme Court won't deal with it. Just move on. So we did. It's only now that a lot of evidence is hard evidence is coming out that yes, it was tampered with. Of course it was. 81 million votes. I just have never been one person. I'll just wrap with this. My instinct, if I'm being threatened or blackmailed, is to simply say, "Do it." do it. I would rather suffer uh, loss of my job, or the loss of my wife, or the loss of money, or the loss of my freedom. I'd rather suffer that than spend the rest of my life um, with a gun to my head. Spend the rest of my life realizing that I need to walk the straight and narrow, or else somebody's going to pull the trigger on on me. I'd rather just take the humiliation and the consequences, and and then still have, you know, the ability to face myself. So we'll see. Uh, we'll see. All right, let's get to some questions here. Brian L says, I'm still waiting for the Fort Knox audit. See, that's the kind of thing, too, right? Um, that's the kind of thing, too. Didn't, weren't we told, hey, we're not sure that there's gold in Fort Knox. We should go in there with a video camera, says Elon Musk. And Trump says, this is a great idea. Let's do it. What happened? What happened to that? Thanks, Trinity says, thanks for worrying about this bill with the super chat. I do worry about it. And here's the one thing I know, right? The one thing I know is that I'm never giving up on this American ideal, because we are ultimately idealists. We pride ourselves on being realists and rational people who have to deal with the real world, and that we don't have an ideology that is at odds with reality, and we don't. But I genuinely believe in this Constitution, and genuinely believe in the idea of freedom from being at the whims of other people, and I genuinely believe that millions of men have died for that idea, and I'm not going to fall into cynicism by saying, well, look, man, it's just the way it is, just get on with your, your widescreen TV and your DoorDash, and yeah, what happened to all of that? What happened to the what happened to Doge? I mean, Elon Musk basically left because he essentially said, we're just as we uncover all of the, didn't they say that they found trillions of dollars of checks that had no ID on them in terms of who it was supposed to be written to? What happened to all of that? So yeah, I believe in it, and I know you believe in it too, and I know that tens, if not 100 million people believe in this idea. But I look at what's happening in the world, and it's not just this one thing. France is gone. There's no way France is going to recover. The French people couldn't defend their city from the Nazis, weren't willing to fight for it. Then there's no way and France is gone. Britain is almost gone. Who the people of the country hate it, but they're not willing to fight back. So who's making these decisions to destroy these countries? Who's making these decisions? Certainly, it's not people who have to walk down the streets of Kirk's the Islamic Republic of France. Who's in whose interest is this? Because it's not in the interest of the American people, of the British people. It's not in the interest of the French people. They hate it. In whose interest is it? Because it is happening, right? It is happening. There's no question it's happening. So if it's happening and it's so destructive, yes, World Economic Forum, sure, and all these guys. So something is going on, And there. I mentioned that Mersha. I thanked him already, and I'll thank him again. Um, okay, here we go. Let's see. We got Roadrunner. We got Mersha Dark. We got Janie. We got Capital G Geek. We got Broke College Student, Steve Young, Eric Blake, Mersha Dark. I don't know. We'll see. Um, Okay, Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. So Elon wanted to start a new political party, the America Party. Common sense says that a third party won't work. It will only divide one party, usually the Republicans, and give the election to the other party. But what happens when neither party is listening to their base? Conservatives are tired of the stupid antics of Mitch McConnell, supported by idiots like Murkowski, Collins, and Tillis. The Republican Party also gave us presidential candidates like Bob Dole, Mitt Romney, and John McCain. Republicans have voted to confirm far-left Supreme Court justice nominees like Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson. They also voted to confirm Democratic cabinet members like Eric Holder, John Kerry, and Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, Democrats are voting in lockstep against every single Republican president candidate's nominees, frequently with Republican support. You, Bill, have said that some Republicans are voting against things that should be part of their DNA. The deficit has grown under every Republican president since Ronald Reagan. The Democrats are also having a breakdown between the left and the far left. The rise of anti-Semitism, supporting Hamas, illegal immigration, and other anti-American policies are tearing their party apart. Yep. When neither party listens to their base, will a third party be a good idea? As long as we support candidates that do not believe what we do, aren't we contributing to the problem? Who was it who said a pox on both their houses? See, Ray Berry says, I don't know why so many people are this obsessed over this story. My government's been lying to me all my life. What makes this story any different? Many of us thought that that the 2024 election would be the end of our government lying to us. We actually believed that. And so the question is, are we just naive suckers? And we should just accept the cynical worldview, and I'm just not going down that road. I'm just not. And by the way, I developed a floater today. I've got a floater in my left eye, which is the eye I had problems with before, and that's got me a little concerned. I've never had floaters before, but I've got one now. So. I don't know, Roadrunner. I think no, this is an actual. My hands are fine. This is an actual floater. It's a dark spot in my vision, and it's the same eye that I had the problem with before. So I'm not happy about this. I don't know. I think it's too early. I hope so. Thank you, SB Greenberg. Right now I think it's a bad idea. I mean, the it's all just happening so quickly. I mean, it's time for everybody to just calm down. But calm down doesn't mean forget it. And I don't know. Epic S says my through line is the Five Eyes were using Epstein, including UK and Israel intelligence agencies. Comey left a fake palette of evidence embarrassing Trump and Bondi. Maybe. I would, yeah, I've been to an ophthalmologist many times for this, and I never had floaters before. It's just in one eye, but yeah. So, to be honest with you, Roadrunner, I just think it's just too early to decide. You know, there is a tendency for humans to automatically go to the worst case scenario, and this could be, the result of that emotional tendency. So I just think I'm going to just leave it at that. I don't really know if there's more that I can say about it right now, but we'll see. Marusha, dark topic, the dark room. Mr. Virtual President, the alien ambassador from the Centauri Empire has just contacted you, upset about the loss of their diplomat, Galfrey Epsilon, whom you all call Jeff Epstein. The reptilian envoy is prepared to overlook this offense, but expects you to continue delivering the agreed-upon tribute that your last 15 predecessors have. After initially telling ET to F off and threatening to raise hue and cry about this to the human race, the ambassador presents you with credible evidence that he has the power to destroy all of human civilization on a whim. What lie do you proceed to tell the American people, not only to keep this under wraps, but to justify the continued debt, inflation, and child sacrifice required to satisfy the tribute and avoid human execution? I would tell the reptilians that they'd better bring their, that they, come and take them. Come and take them. I'm not going to be blackmailed. I'm not going to be intimidated. And especially by a bunch of reptiles. Come and take them. And then I'm going to Sparta kick him into a gigantic hole. I was, this is America! Colonel Angus says, Bill, if you get an unusual headache right behind that eye, please get to the ER. Yes, I've been told that by doctors before. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. Kirk Bamboo Bazooka says, as a former lifeguard, I always cringe a little at the term floater. Yeah, I hear you, dude. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of defiant like that. Bad Weather Biker for Super Chat says, I'm all in on Musk's third-party idea. Any other answer equals Hail Hydra. Yeah. I don't take threats well, I really don't. I just don't. I don't take threats. Well, so Janie Waterman. Hello again. I've formed an opinion. I'd like your thoughts on it. If you'd be so kind, if we've already talked about this, you can skip me. I do not think that Pam Bondi was saying in her Fox interview at the time that all the papers on her desk were for all the things. She said the word it is on my desk. She asked about one thing and responded in the singular. She meant the list at the time because she knew that it would go viral. If she diluted the list with other piles of other important papers to review, her answer at the time would have been interpreted as a no, and she needed to be interpreted as a yes. Trump said he chose people for his team that were good on TV, and she's no exception. I don't believe for a minute that Pam Bondi was referring to many papers, but I do believe that she had to say it in a way she could walk back later just in case, which is now thoughts. Yeah, this is a possibility. The files are on my desk, and people heard the list is on my desk. That's what she's saying. And again, that's a it's a reasonable explanation. But not to get too deep back into it again, but when she was explaining herself, she said that all of the videotapes, she said previously that there were many videotapes of Jeffrey Epstein doing disgusting things. And then she said that no, all it was that he had downloaded a lot of child porn, which he's not in. There's no reason to download porn that you're in, right? So it's these contradictions that basically uh, uh, are so disturbing. So, you know, I don't know what else to say about it than that. Um, they just all looked like they looked like they were lying. Um, and again, for the 13th time, if it's true that there's nothing there, this is an easy thing um, to explain. There were videos of Epstein and victims, they just said, but then why would they have to download them? I don't know. I don't know. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. The Epstein announcement at least now has The View wanting those documents released, and Ben Shapiro fell in the line saying there's no list and no story there. Part of why this hits so hard is that we voted for Trump as the outsider who is going to dismantle the entire satanic pedophile mess of government corruption. It looks like he may just be a typical Republican who betrays on the really important stuff. I don't expect that God spared his life just for deportations and cutting waste. The Houthis have attacked and sunk another ship in the Red Sea, Greek this time. I think a solution is a wing of buffs with dumb 500-pound bombs or whatever other ordnance is approaching the end of its shelf life. No strategic or targeted strikes, just a vast area of destruction. At least the ICE attackers are getting real charges now. Yeah, so, yeah, I agree about that. Um, uh, uh, yeah. Um, I'm getting a little bit concerned about this eye thing. Um, I am. I don't have a headache there or anything, um, but it feels a little strange, and I might be good for me to not to lower my blood pressure a little bit and uh, see if this calms down. Um, it's not. I'm not going to head to the hospital. I went through this whole thing, 5 months ago, and had a neurosurgeon tell me if I get a big headache, get to the ER immediately. I don't have a headache, but I am a little amped up. I don't think I need to go to the hospital. Um, uh, but I do think I probably should just kind of end the show now. Um, uh, I'm just trying to suss out, what exactly I'm feeling here. Yeah, there's definitely something a little off. Um, less time sitting, more time walking. Yeah, you're right about that. Um, yeah, I think that's. I'm sorry about not getting to the rest of the questions, but I think the smart thing to do would be for me to kind of wrap it up here. Vision in the eye looks good. There's a definite floater there though. That's new. That happened at lunch today. I've got a ophthalmologist who I've seen 4 times, and so I suppose I'll go see him a 5th time. Uh, but yeah, I think probably smart thing to do is just kind of uh, Yeah, and stress is a killer. There's a lot of stress about the membership and all the rest of that stuff, and the bloody website and all the rest of it. I think what I'll do is just go and take it easy. Um, I had a thorough ophthalmological exam, three of them, and everything was fine. I mean, just 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So I think. Yeah, I think that's what I think it's probably the smart play. Um, so I'm feeling just a little kind of, I don't know, just a little something there. All right, well, that's a you know, you gotta listen when somebody's trying to tell you something. Sorry to have to just drop this in the middle of things there. Perhaps get an MRI. Had an MRI, Colonel Angus had one back in February. I'm scheduled for another one in August or September. Um, and um, and thank you all for everything. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the pinned comments on both streams. If you are not a member and you've been thinking about membership, we've got a plug-in that's a little slow, but it's working, and we sure would like to beta test it. So if if it sounds like something you're interested in for $9.95 a month, the links are in the comment section, and we sure would love to have you on board as an actual family member. It would be great to have you. Okay, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold it up. Thanks very much for being here, and thanks for the back and forth. You know, it's a strange time and exciting time, and the main thing to remember is none of us are alone in this. We're all in this together, and we'll get through it together. So hopefully it'll turn out that there's no there, or they'll come out and say, hey, we had to do this, or we couldn't tell you because it was the D-Day invasion, or whatever. But in any event, we still believe the things we believe in, and what we believe in are not people. We believe in something bigger than people. So that's always something that's comforted me. Okay, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you on Monday night for the Stratosphere Studio.